The envelope contains $3,000 in cash, and my hands are shaking as I push it across the coffee shop table toward a man named Nathan Cross, who specializes in catching cheating spouses. He comes highly recommended from one of those online forums where suspicious wives trade stories and detective referrals. And right now he's my last hope for confirming what I already know in my gut about Marcus. I'm telling him everything. About the late-night phone calls my husband takes in the garage with the door closed. About the hotel receipt I found for a weekend in Seattle that was supposedly a work conference that never actually happened. Nathan takes notes in a small leather notebook, asking detailed questions about Marcus's daily routine, his work schedule, the friends he sees regularly, and I answer everything as precisely as I can. There's this strange feeling washing over me, part relief that I'm finally taking action and part dread about what he's going to find, because once I see the proof I can't unsee it. The gut feeling that's been eating me alive for the past 6 months is about to become photographic evidence, and I'm not sure I'm ready for that reality. He tells me he'll start surveillance tomorrow morning, that he'll follow Marcus for 2 full weeks and document everything he does, everywhere he goes, everyone he meets. Nathan says I should expect a complete report with photos, timestamps, location data, and a detailed timeline of Marcus's activities. He says most cases like this are resolved within the first week because cheaters are usually sloppy, predictable creatures of habit. I sign the contract, shake his hand, and walk out of that coffee shop feeling like I've just set something irreversible in motion. What I don't know yet, what I won't find out until it's too late, is that Nathan Cross isn't just going to follow Marcus. He's going to follow me too. And what he discovers will flip this entire investigation on its head in ways I never could have imagined. Marcus and I met at a charity gala for children's hospitals where I was working as an event coordinator, and he was there representing his tech startup that was making some kind of donation. He was charming in this understated way, asking intelligent questions about the logistics of the event instead of just networking and drinking free champagne like everyone else. We talked for 2 hours straight, and by the end of the night, he'd asked for my number and I'd said yes, without hesitation. Our relationship moved fast, maybe too fast in hindsight, but it felt right at the time. We were engaged within 8 months and married 6 months after that in a small ceremony at a vineyard in Napa Valley. Marcus's company was doing well. My career was taking off, and we bought a house in a nice neighborhood where everyone seemed to have their lives perfectly together. The first year of marriage was exactly what I'd hoped for. Weekend trips to the coast, dinner parties with friends, talking about starting a family soon. Marcus was attentive and supportive, always asking about my day, always interested in my work projects. I thought I'd found someone who actually saw me, who valued what I brought to the relationship beyond just being a wife. The red flags started small, so small that I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Marcus began working later hours, saying his company was in a crucial growth phase and he needed to be there for important meetings. He'd come home smelling like perfume sometimes, and when I'd mention it, he'd laugh and say it was probably from hugging a female colleague. Goodbye. He started password protecting his phone when he'd never done that before, claiming it was for work security. Then I found the hotel receipt in his jacket pocket when I was taking clothes to the dry cleaner. A receipt for a 2-night stay at the Fairmont Olympic in Seattle during a weekend he'd told me he was at that conference. I called the company that supposedly hosted the conference, pretending to be his assistant following up on some materials, and they told me no such conference had taken place. That's when everything in my stomach dropped and I knew something was very wrong. I started checking his credit card statements when they came in the mail, finding charges at restaurants I'd never been to, flower purchases that I'd never received, rideshare trips to addresses I didn't recognize. Marcus had always handled most of our finances, insisting it was easier that way since he was better with numbers. But now I was looking at everything with new eyes. I saw patterns I'd missed before, money moving in ways that didn't make sense. So I hired Nathan Cross, and I waited for him to confirm what I already suspected, that my husband was having an affair and I'd need to start planning my exit strategy. I spent those first few days after hiring Nathan in this weird state of anxious anticipation, checking my phone constantly for updates, jumping every time an unknown number called. Nathan sent me brief text updates saying he was on it, that he'd be in touch soon with preliminary findings. Then on day 4 of the surveillance, Nathan calls me and asks if we can meet somewhere private, somewhere that's not my house or anywhere near my usual haunts. His voice sounds different, more serious than before, and he won't tell me anything over the phone. We agree to meet at a park on the other side of town, and I drive there with my hands shaking on the steering wheel, preparing myself for the photographic evidence of Marcus with another woman. When I get to the park, Nathan is sitting on a bench with a thick folder in his lap, and the expression on his face isn't what I expected. He doesn't look sympathetic or apologetic like someone about to show a wife proof of her husband's infidelity. He looks confused, almost concerned, and when I sit down next to him, he doesn't immediately open the folder. Nathan tells me that he did follow Marcus like I asked, and that Marcus's behavior has been completely clean, completely innocent. He goes to work, comes home, occasionally meets friends for drinks, attends legitimate business dinners, and never once goes anywhere that would suggest an affair. Nathan says he watched Marcus at that Seattle hotel weekend, and it turns out Marcus actually was there for work, for meetings with potential investors that he'd kept quiet about because the deal was sensitive and hadn't been finalized yet. I feel this strange disappointment mixed with relief, like I wanted to be wrong, but now I'm confused about all the things that made me suspicious in the first place. But then Nathan tells me that's not why he called this meeting, that something else came up during the investigation that I need to know about. He says he was following Marcus last Tuesday afternoon when I called Nathan to check in on the surveillance, and Nathan's GPS showed that I was calling from a location that didn't match where I told Marcus I would be that day. Nathan explains that he got curious, started doing some additional background work on both of us like he does with all his cases, just to understand the full picture of the marriage he's investigating. He pulls out the folder and opens it, and I see pages of documents, printouts, photos that I don't understand at first. Then I realize with growing horror that these aren't photos of Marcus. They're photos of me. There are pictures of me leaving a condo building in downtown Portland on 3 different occasions. A building I'd told Marcus I'd never been to. A building that, according to Nathan's research, is owned by a man named Alex Brennan who works in commercial real estate. There are photos of me having lunch with Alex at an upscale restaurant. Photos of us walking through a park with our heads close together. Photos that look exactly like what I thought I'd be seeing of Marcus with another woman. Nathan tells me he ran a background check on Alex Brennan and discovered something interesting, that Alex has been married for 12 years to a woman named Jennifer, and they have 2 kids in private school. He says the condo where I've been meeting Alex is actually an investment property that Alex supposedly uses for client meetings, but the building manager confirmed that I've been visiting regularly for the past 4 months with my own key. I can feel my face burning, my heart pounding so hard I think Nathan must be able to hear it, and I'm trying to form words, but nothing comes out that makes sense. Nathan's still talking, showing me more evidence. Bank statements that show I've been withdrawing cash regularly from an account Marcus doesn't know about. An account I opened 2 years ago using my maiden name. He's showing me receipts for a burner phone, receipts for a storage unit I'm renting across town. Nathan tells me he accessed the security footage from the storage unit facility, and he can see me going in and out, but he hasn't been inside to see what I'm storing there. He says he won't include any of this in his official report to me about Marcus, but he needs to understand what's going on because this investigation has turned into something completely different from what I hired him for. He asks me directly if I'm having an affair with Alex Brennan, and I realize I'm trapped, caught in my own investigation. I tell Nathan the truth, or at least part of it. That yes, I've been seeing Alex, but it's complicated. That it started as something innocent and spiraled into something I couldn't control. I tell him about the storage unit, how it contains documents and files from my previous life, the life I had before I met Marcus. Nathan's eyes narrow when I say, previous life, and he asks me what exactly that means. So I tell him everything. And watching his expression change is like watching someone see a magic trick explained, the illusion collapsing into something darker and more disturbing. I tell him that my real name isn't Rebecca Chen like it says on my driver's license and our marriage certificate. It's Rebecca Morrison, and I legally changed it 8 years ago after leaving a marriage in Chicago that ended very badly. I tell him about my first husband David, about the business we built together, about how I discovered he was embezzling from our clients and I made a choice to walk away with some of that money before the authorities closed in. I took $400,000 in cash that was hidden in our home safe, money that David had skimmed from client accounts over years of fraud, and I left Chicago with a new identity and a plan to start over somewhere no one would find me. I moved to Portland, changed my name, created a whole new background story, and eventually met Marcus, who knew nothing about Rebecca Morrison or the life I'd left behind. Nathan is looking at me like I'm a stranger, which I guess I am, and he asks me about Alex Brennan, how he fits into this story. I explain that Alex found me 6 months ago, that he was one of David's former clients who lost money in the scheme and he's been tracking me down for years. When he finally located me in Portland, he gave me a choice: pay him back what his family lost plus interest, or he'd expose everything to Marcus and the authorities. The cash withdrawals Nathan found were payments I've been making to Alex, trying to pay off this debt that seems to grow every month with his interest calculations. The condo meetings were about negotiating payment terms, and Alex has been threatening to tell Marcus everything if I don't keep up with the schedule. The storage unit contains all my old documents, old IDs, records from Chicago, everything I couldn't destroy but couldn't risk having in the house where Marcus might find them. Nathan closes the folder and sits back, and I can see him processing this information, recalculating everything he thought he knew about this case. He tells me that he's obligated to complete the investigation I hired him for, but that he can't be part of what I'm doing. That what I've described is multiple felonies, including identity fraud, theft, and conspiracy. He says he'll finish the Marcus surveillance, give me the report showing my husband is innocent, and then he's done. But Nathan doesn't stop there. He tells me something that makes my blood run cold. That during his background check on Alex Brennan, he discovered that Alex isn't actually a victim of David's scheme at all. Alex never invested with David's company. His name doesn't appear in any of the legal documents or client lists from the fraud case. Nathan says he thinks Alex is running a con on me, that somehow he learned about my past and has been extorting money from me under false pretenses. I feel like the ground is tilting underneath me, like everything I thought I understood has just shifted again. Nathan shows me court documents from David's case, client lists that he pulled from public records, and Alex Brennan's name isn't anywhere on them. He shows me that the real Alex Brennan is a commercial real estate agent, but the man I've been meeting might be using a stolen identity just like I've been using a fabricated one. Nathan suggests that I'm being blackmailed by a professional con artist who identified me as a vulnerable target, someone with secrets to hide who would pay to keep those secrets buried. He says I need to go to the police, come clean about everything, because Alex's threats might be empty and I'm paying him money I've already stolen while living under a false identity with a husband who has no idea who he really married. I go home that night and Marcus is cooking dinner in the kitchen, humming along to some song on the radio, completely oblivious to the fact that our entire marriage is built on lies that are about to collapse. He asks me how my day was, kisses my forehead, tells me he has good news about a deal his company just closed. I smile and nod and pretend everything is fine while inside I am calculating how much time I have before everything falls apart. I decide to confront Alex, to test Nathan's theory that he's conning me. So I text him from the burner phone and say I need to meet immediately. We agree to meet at the condo the next morning, and I spend the whole night lying awake next to Marcus, wondering if I should just tell him everything before he finds out another way. But I can't make myself do it. Can't make myself say the words that would destroy the life I've built. At the condo the next morning, I confront Alex with what Nathan told me, that his name isn't in David's client records, that I don't think he's who he says he is. Alex's expression changes instantly, the friendly businesslike demeanor dropping away to reveal something colder underneath. He tells me it doesn't matter whether he was really one of David's clients. What matters is that I stole that money and I'm living under a false identity. And he has enough evidence to prove both of those things to anyone who wants to know. Alex says he's made copies of everything, sent them to secure locations, and if anything happens to him or if I stop paying, those documents will automatically be delivered to the FBI, to Marcus, to my employer. to everyone in my life. He says I'm going to keep paying him indefinitely because I have too much to lose, and there's nothing I can do about it. Then he tells me the payment schedule is changing, that he wants $50,000 by the end of the month or he starts making phone calls. I leave that meeting knowing I'm trapped between impossible choices, that I can't pay $50,000 without Marcus noticing, that I can't keep up with Alex's escalating demands, that I can't run again without destroying whatever tiny pieces of my life I might want to salvage. I drive around for hours just thinking. And eventually, I end up back at that park where Nathan showed me the truth about my own investigation. Nathan sends me his final report 2 days later. A detailed document showing that Marcus has been completely faithful, that every suspicious thing I noticed had an innocent explanation, that my husband is exactly who he appears to be. Nathan includes a note saying he's closing the case and recommending that I seek legal counsel about the Alex situation, but he won't be involved further. The report costs me $3,000 to confirm that I was the problem in our marriage all along. Marcus finds out everything 3 weeks later. Not because of Alex or Nathan or anything I could have controlled, but because my past catches up in the stupidest way possible. David gets released from prison early on good behavior, and one of the first things he does is contact Marcus through LinkedIn, sending him a friendly message saying he used to know Rebecca Morrison and he'd lost touch with her. Did Marcus know how to reach her? Marcus has no idea who Rebecca Morrison is, so he asks me about it casually over dinner, saying some guy from Chicago is looking for a woman with that name and must have the wrong person. I watch Marcus's face as I try to explain, as the lies I've built start crumbling, as he realizes the woman he married doesn't actually exist in the way he thought she did. The divorce takes 8 months, and Marcus's lawyer tears apart everything about our marriage, proving that I entered it under false pretenses with a fabricated identity. Marcus gets the house, most of our assets, and I'm left with legal bills I can barely pay while still trying to deal with Alex's blackmail. The FBI gets involved eventually, investigating David's case, my part in the original theft, and the identity fraud I've been committing for years. I end up taking a plea deal that involves returning whatever money I still have, serving 2 years of probation, and living under court supervision. Alex disappears completely once the FBI starts investigating, and I never find out if he was really one of David's victims or just an opportunistic con artist who saw an easy mark. Marcus sends me one email after the divorce is finalized, saying he wishes I'd trusted him enough to tell him the truth from the beginning, that he might have been able to help me find a better way forward if I hadn't built our entire relationship on deception. He says he spent months replaying every conversation we ever had, trying to figure out which parts were real and which were performance, and he's not sure he'll ever know. I think about that private investigator I hired to catch my cheating husband, about how I was so convinced Marcus was the problem, about how I was projecting my own guilt onto him because I couldn't face what I'd done. I hired Nathan to follow the wrong spouse because I was the one living a double life. I was the one with the secrets. I was the one destroying our marriage from the inside out. The worst part isn't the legal consequences or the public humiliation or even losing Marcus, though all of those things are devastating in their own ways. The worst part is knowing that I had a chance at something real, at a relationship with someone who genuinely loved me, and I poisoned it with lies before it ever had a chance to grow into something lasting. I spent so much energy running from my past that I never stopped to build an honest future. I still have Nathan's report somewhere in a box, that expensive document proving Marcus's innocence, and sometimes I take it out and read through it page by page. Every timestamp, every location, every mundane detail of my husband's faithful daily routine, all of it evidence that I was chasing ghosts while becoming one myself. I hired an investigator to follow my husband, and he followed me instead, and what he found was the truth I'd been running from for almost a decade.